Hi guys, it's Mrs. Millison. All right, let's talk about while loops. Okay, a loop is a set of instructions that continues to run while a condition is met. Okay, so while loop is it runs when we don't know how many times the loop will run. So we say keep it running while this certain condition is met. Okay, and we'll talk about for loops later. Okay, so loops have three parts. Okay, there's the initialized value that we're going to put in the Boolean test for the while loop. Then there's the actual Boolean test, and then there's the way we have to change the value so that the loop doesn't go on forever. Okay. All right, so we're going to create a loop to count down from a number. Okay. So I've got scanner imported here. I'm going to create a scanner object so that I can prompt the user for a number. Okay, and then I'll count down from that number. For a number to count, down from. Okay, so I will call this int, I'll call it top num equals. Okay, so there's my initial value. So the user enters in 5. Okay, so while top num is greater than or equal to 0, we're going to print it. Oops. Okay, so if I enter in 5, put a little space in here. If I enter in 5, it'll print 5. And then now I need to either increase or decrease top num. Okay, because now I entered in 5. 5 is greater than 0, so it prints it. If I don't change it, it'll keep printing 5 over and over and over again. So what I want to do is I want to go down a value. I want to go to 4. And then it'll come up here and say 4 is greater than 0, and then it'll print 4. And it'll go down to 3, and so forth, until 0. Okay, so let's compile and run this. So we'll do 5. And we have our 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, let's do it all on a line. Okay, so I'm going to change this from println to print, so it all goes in a line, and I'm going to add a space. There we go. So now let's see how we change it, just so it prints on one line. Oh, let's do 6 this time. Okay, so 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, so again, this was my initialized value outside the while loop. This is my Boolean test to test that initial value. And then this was my either increase or decrease that value so that the loop continues until it gets to its stopping point. Okay, now if I did top num plus plus, this loop would have gone on forever because these numbers would just be getting bigger and they're always greater than 0. Okay, so be careful what you have in your Boolean test, that your increment or decrement makes sense. Okay, because you want to be working towards that target value to stop the loop. Okay. All right, I'm going to print just a blank line so we have room for our next one. Okay, the next loop I want to create is I want the user to enter in a number, and I want the loop to keep adding the numbers. So if the user enters in 1, the sum is 1. And then the next number is 2, the sum is 3. The next number is 3, the sum is 6. So I want the user to continually add numbers and the loop add them up until the user enters in a specific value to stop the loop. Okay, so when we have a value to stop the loop, that's called a sentinel value. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to do all positive, actually we'll do all numbers, okay, except for 0. Okay, so our sentinel value will be 0. Okay, so first thing I have to do is I have to create a value outside. So I'm going to do int num. I'm just going to call it num, and I'm just, oh, you know what? I want the user to tell me what that is. Okay, I want the user to start with the value. Enter a number, and then, oops, will be, what's my scanner called? Next int. Okay, so now the user has given me a number. So while that number is not equal to 0, I want the loop to add it up, okay? So I want to create a sum. So if I create the sum, I can just say the sum equals num, okay? Oops. And then I'm going to have to prompt for another number, okay? Well, again, I want the user to give me another number. Oops. Enter, oops, good heavens. Enter another number, okay? And again, we'll call this, all right, we'll talk about what we're going to call this. All right, so after they enter another number, I want to add that number to the sum, okay? But then at the end, I want to print out the sum, okay? I don't want to print out the sum every single time. I want to print it out when the loop is over. Okay, so I need to think about this. If I create sum inside the loop, it only exists inside the loop. So I think I need to create this sum outside the loop. Okay, so I'm going to create the sum outside the loop. Oh, heavens. I set it equal to 0. Okay, so now when I get in here, it'll take sum, and I'm just going to add num to it. Okay, so let's say we start with 5. Okay, sum is 0, 5 is not 0, so sum will now become 5. And I'm going to print out another number. Now, what should I call this other number that the user is going to give me? I'm going to reassign it to num, okay, because I've already captured that number in the sum, so I don't need the 5 anymore. Okay, and then that will change. So, okay, so I put in a 5, it says it's not equal to 0, so it adds it to sum is now 5. I print out another number, I say 6. So now this is 6. It goes up here and says 6 is not equal to 0, and now sum is now 5 plus 6. So now sum is 11. Okay, I ask for another number, say 2. It comes up here, 2 is not equal. So now I take 11 plus 2, and sum is now 13. Okay, and it'll keep going and going and going until I hit that sentinel value. So let's make the sentinel value 0. Okay, our sentinel value here is 0. So anywhere along the line, when it's asking for another number, if I hit 0, the loop will stop. If I start with a 0, the loop won't even run because this isn't true. Okay, all right, so let's try and see what happens. Okay, so we're going to run. Okay, enter a number to count. Oh, that's the other one. We'll just do 4. All right, so enter a number. Let's do 5. Enter another number, 6. What did we say the other one was? 2. Okay, so now I'm at my last number. I don't want to add anymore. So I know this is what, 11, 12, 13. So I'm going to do my sentinel number, 0. Then it prints out that sum because it doesn't calculate the 0 in it, because when it came up to the loop, this was false because 0 did equal 0, and it didn't even run through that again. Okay, so now I've got this structured kind of nice. Now what I think I want to do is I want to embellish this a little bit. Not only do I want to tell the user the sum, but I want to tell them how many numbers they actually inputted. So I basically want to have a count. So I want to have a sum and a count. Okay, I'm going to put some text with this. The sum is going to be that, and then we will have our let's do comma count. Okay, so not only do I want the sum of the numbers, I want to count how many numbers there were. I want to know that there was 3 numbers. Okay, all right, so we need to create this variable. So again, just like sum, it has to exist outside the loop. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to create another variable called count. And I'm also going to set it equal to 0. Okay, so now every time a number comes in here, I want that count to go up. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to create a count increase. Okay, now is this the right place to do it? Because, well, let's see. I'm trying to think. If I count it like after here, what if I put a 0 in here? It's going to count it. Let's try it. Let's try and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to run. I'll just do 2 numbers to start. Oh, that's the other one. That's my countdown. So the first number is 5. Second number is 2. I'm done. Okay, it did work okay. So the total is sum. It only counted the 2 numbers. Okay, so it didn't count. Oh, you know what? It didn't count the initial number. That's why I was thinking it would overcount by 1 number, but it never counted the initial number. If I had started this at 1, I would have had to change that count increment to maybe above the input for another number, because when you put the sentinel value in, I didn't want that to count. It seems to work fine. Let's try another one. Again, there's my countdown. Let's do several numbers. Let's do 3, 5. What's that? 8, 9, 10, and 18. And then I'm going to do 0. I want it to stop. So I know the sum was 18, and I believe I had 4 numbers: 3, 5, 2, and 8. Okay, so there's my while loop that worked. Okay. I would like to show you this on a tracing table. Okay, I would like to show you this on a tracing table. So let me get my Elmo up. Okay, so what I had was, I had a count, a sum, and a number, right? My count started at 0, my sum started at 0, and when I asked the user for a number, they gave me a number. So say, I can't remember what the numbers were, guys, I'm sorry, 5. Okay, then my code says, is 5 not equal to 0? Okay, not equal to 0. Yes, it isn't, so I can go. So then my sum is going to be, my number is going to be added to my sum. So now my sum is 5, and then my count is going to go up. Okay, then it asks for another number. So let's say I enter in 2. Okay, 2 is still not equal to 0. So now it takes the sum and it adds these 2 together. So now this is 7, and then my count goes up by 1. Okay, so now I've got 2 numbers, the total is 7. Okay, let's do one more. And then it prompts me for another number. So let's say I say 3. Okay, so then it goes into the loop, and the sum is going to add these 2 up. So this will be 10. And then this will increment up to the third number. Then I come over here and ask for another number, and I'm done. I want to make this 0. So now this isn't true, so it doesn't run through that anymore. Okay, so now I know my count and I know my sum. Okay, let's look at that again. Okay. So now if I run this, sorry, I'm compiling again. If I run this, I started with a 5. Okay, that was the wrong one. I started with a 5. It asked for another number. I put in a 2. And as for another number, I put in a 3, and then here's my sentinel value. So again, I had my sum of 10 and my count of 3. So tracing tables are really a great idea, or a great way to work yourself through a loop. Okay? All right, I hope this was helpful, and I'm going to do another video in a second about turning one of these loops into a method. Okay? All right, I will see you soon.